the Fall of Reach. Let me make sure that I am sounding okay really quick. Surely there's a better way of doing it, but fuck it. It gives people time to roll in. All the two of you. Alright, let's see. How do I sound? I sound great. I sound sexy. I sound incredible. Alright. Okay, quick recap of what this is before I just start rolling on it. Also, ooh, my Spotify is not up. I have a screen capture that isn't working. That's okay. We figure it out. We come to... I wish I could multitask and explain what the fuck this is, but I should just sort this real quick. Open source projector? That's not what I wanted. I just need to change the source. Come on, come on. Come on. Oh, it should be so easy. Come on. Alright, I guess I'm making a new scene, an unnecessary new scene, even though it's saved elsewhere already. Spotify. This one will be called Spotify. Nope. God damn, brother. There we fucking go. Alright. Okay. Alright, so what this is basic. I mean, you guys remember during the pandemic when no one could do fucking anything, and so some of the streaming services cooked up watch parties for like Netflix and shit. This is kind of a really shitty version of that with an audiobook. So what I'm going to do is give a countdown to every chapter, like a 3, 2, 1 verbal countdown, and you can sync from you can sync the playback with me, and then at the end of every chapter, what I'm going to do is do a little summary, and that should be so I can document it all here in my notes. If you
August 17th,
want to just roll up on, like, I'm in the middle of chapter 19, then you can just read these notes over here, and then start from chapter 17 in a book, which is an insane way to do this. It's also, all the live streams are going to be on my YouTube, so you could go through the backlog on YouTube and then try to catch up and watch the stream along live. I should be. I'm gonna try to do it 10 p.m. Pacific time most nights. So anyway, that being said, let me give the countdown on to chapter 1. There's the prologue recap above it. Fuck it, I'm not gonna actually recap it right now. Chapter 1 is going
Section
to start in
Reveille.
I'll give a 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Section 1. Reveille. Chapter 1. 0430 hours. August 17th, 2517, military calendar. Slipstream space. Unknown coordinates near Eridanus star system. Lieutenant Junior Grade Jacob Keyes awoke. Dull red light filled his blurry vision, and he choked on the slime in his lungs and throat. "Sit up, Lieutenant Keyes," a disembodied male voice said. "Sit. Take a deep breath and cough, sir. You need to clear the bronchial surfactant. Lieutenant Keyes pushed himself up, peeling his back off the form-fitting gel bed. Wisps of fog overflowed from the cryogenic tube as he clumsily climbed out. He sat on a nearby bench, tried to inhale, and doubled over, coughing until a long string of clear fluid flowed from his open mouth. He sat up and drew his first full breath in 2 weeks. He tasted his lips and almost gagged. The cryo-inhalant was specially designed to be regurgitated and swallowed, replacing nutrients lost in the deep sleep. No matter how they changed the formula, though, it always tasted like lime-flavored mucus. Status, Torin. We under attack?
Negative, sir, the ship's AI replied. Status normal. We will enter normal space near the Aridana system in 45 minutes.
Lieutenant Keyes coughed again. Good. Thank you, Torin.
You're welcome, Lieutenant. Eridanus was on the border of the outer colonies. It was just far enough off the beaten path for pirates to be lurking, waiting to capture a diplomatic shuttle like the Han. This ship wouldn't last long in a space action.
They should have an escort. He didn't understand why they had been sent alone, but junior lieutenants didn't question orders, especially when those orders came from FleetCom HQ on planet Reach. Wake-up protocols dictated that he inspect the rest of the crew to make sure no one had run into problems reviving. He looked around the sleep chamber. Rows of stainless steel lockers and showers, a medical pod for emergency resuscitations, and 40 cryogenic tubes, all empty except the one to his left. The other person on the Han was the civilian specialist, Dr. Halsey. Keyes had been ordered to protect her at all costs, pilot this ship, and generally stay the hell out of her way. They might as well have asked him to hold her hand. This wasn't a military mission, it was babysitting. Someone at Fleet Command must have him on their blacklist. The cover of Dr. Halsey's tube hummed open. Mist rippled out as she sat up, coughing. Her pale skin made her look like a ghost in the fog. Matted locks of dark hair clung to her neck. She didn't look much older than him, and she was lovely. Not beautiful, but definitely a striking woman. For a civilian, anyway. Her blue eyes fixed upon the lieutenant, and she looked him over. "We must be near Eridanus," she said. Lieutenant Keyes almost saluted reflectively, but checked the motion. "Yes, Doctor." His face reddened, and he looked away from her slender body. He had drilled in cryogenic recovery a dozen times at the academy. He'd seen his fellow officers naked before, men and women, but Dr. Halsey was a civilian. He didn't know what protocols applied. Lieutenant Keyes got up and went to her. "Can I help you?" She swung her legs out of the tube and climbed out. "I'm fine, Lieutenant. Get cleaned up and dressed." She brushed past him and strode to the showers. "Hurry, we have important work to do." Lieutenant Keyes stood straighter. "Aye, aye, ma'am." With that brief encounter, their roles and the rules of conduct crystallized. Civilian or not, like it or not, Lieutenant Keyes understood that Dr. Halsey was in charge. The bridge of the Han had an abundance of space for a vessel of its size. That is, it had all the maneuvering room of a walk-in closet. A freshly showered, shaved, and uniformed Lieutenant Keyes pulled himself into the room and sealed the pressure door behind him. Every surface of the bridge was covered with monitors and screens. The wall on his left was a single large semi-curved view screen, dark for the moment, because there was nothing in the visible spectrum to see in slip space. Behind him was the Han's spinning center section, containing the mess, the rec room, and the sleep chambers. There was no gravity on the bridge, however. The diplomatic shuttle had been designed for the comfort of its passengers, not the crew. It didn't seem to bother Dr. Halsey. Strapped into the navigator's couch, she wore a white jumpsuit that matched her pale skin, and had tied her dark hair into a simple, elegant knot. Her fingers danced across 4 keypads, tapping in commands. "Welcome, Lieutenant," she said without looking up. Please have a seat at the communication station and monitor the channels when we enter normal space. If there's so much as a squeak on non-standard frequencies, I want to know instantly." He drifted to the communication station and strapped himself down. "Torin?" she asked. "Awaiting your orders, Dr. Halsey," the ship AI replied. "Give me astrogation maps of the system." "Online, Dr. Halsey." "Are there any planets currently aligned with our entry trajectory in Eridanus 2? I want to pick up a gravitational boost so we can move in system ASAP." "Calculating now, Dr. Hull." "And can we have some music? Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3, I think." "Understood, Doctor." "And start a pre-burn warm-up cycle for the fusion engines." "Yes, Doc." "And stop spinning the Hans Central Carousel section. We may need the power." "Working." She eased back. The music started, and she sighed. "Thank you, Torin." "You're welcome, Dr. Halsey. Entering normal space in 5 minutes, plus or minus 3 minutes." Lieutenant Keyes shot the doctor an admiring glance. He was impressed. Few people could put a shipboard AI through its paces so rigorously as to cause a detectable pause. She turned to face him. "Yes, Lieutenant, you have a question?" He composed himself and pulled his uniform jacket taut. "I was curious about our mission, ma'am. I assume we are to reconnoiter something in this system, but why send a shuttle rather than a prowler or a corvette? And why just the two of us?" She blinked and smiled. "A fairly accurate assumption and analysis, Lieutenant. This is a reconnaissance mission, of sorts. We are here to observe a child. The first of many, I hope." "A child?" "A 6-year-old male, to be precise." She waved her hand. "It may help if you think of this purely as a UNSC-funded physiological study." Every trace of a smile evaporated from her lips. "Which is precisely what you are to tell anyone who asks. Is that understood, Lieutenant?" "Yes, Doctor." Keyes frowned, retrieved his grandfather's pipe from his pocket, and turned it end over end. He couldn't smoke the thing. Igniting a combustible on the flight deck was against every major regulation on a UNSC space vehicle, but sometimes he just fiddled with it or chewed on the tip, which helped him think. He stuck it back into his pocket and decided to push the issue and find out more. "With all due respect, Dr. Halsey, this sector of space is dangerous." With a sudden deceleration, they entered normal space. The main view screen flickered and a million stars snapped into focus. The Han dove toward a cloud-swirled gas giant dead ahead. "Stand by for burn," Dr. Halsey announced. "On my mark, Torin." Lieutenant Keyes tightened his harness. 3, 2, 1, mark. The ship rumbled and sped faster toward the gas giant. The pull of the harness increased around the lieutenant's chest, making breathing difficult. They accelerated for 67 seconds. The storms of the gas giant grew larger on the view screen. Then the Han arced up and away from its surface. Eridanus drifted into the center of the screen and filled the bridge with warm orange light. "Gravity boost complete," Torin chimed. "ETA to Eridanus is 42 minutes, 3 seconds. "Well done," Dr. Halsey said. She unlocked her harness and floated free, stretching. "I hate cryo-sleep," she said. "It leaves one so cramped. As I was saying before, Doctor, this system is dangerous." She gracefully spun to face him, halting her momentum with a hand on the bulkhead. "Oh yes, I know how dangerous this system is. It has a colorful history. Rebel insurrection in 2494, beaten down by the UNSC 2 years later at the cost of 4 destroyers." She thought a moment, then added, "I don't believe the Office of Naval Intelligence ever found their base in the asteroid field. And since there have been organized raids and scattered pirate activity nearby, one might conclude, as ONI clearly has, that the remnants of the original rebel faction are still active. Is that what you were worried about?" Yes," the lieutenant replied. He swallowed, his mouth suddenly dry, but he refused to be cowed by the doctor, by a civilian. "I need hardly remind you that it's my job to worry about our security." She knew more than he did, much more, about the Eridanus system, and she obviously had contacts in the intelligence community. Keyes had never seen an ONI spook, to the best of his knowledge anyway. Mainline Navy personnel had elevated such agents to near mythological status. Whatever else he thought of Dr. Halsey, he would assume from now on that she knew what she was doing. Dr. Halsey stretched once more and then strapped herself back onto the navigation couch. "Speaking of pirates," she said, with her back now to him, "weren't you supposed to be monitoring communication channels for illegal signals? Just in case someone takes undue interest in a lone, unescorted diplomatic shuttle?" Lieutenant Keyes cursed himself for his momentary lapse and snapped to. He scanned all frequencies and had Torin cross-check their authentication codes. "All signals verified," he reported. "No pirate transmissions detected. Continue to monitor them, please." An awkward 30 minutes passed. Dr. Halsey was content to read reports on the navigational screens and kept her back to him. Lieutenant Keyes finally cleared his throat. May I speak candidly, Doctor?" "You don't need my permission," she said. "By all means, speak candidly, Lieutenant. You've been doing a fine job so far." Under normal circumstances, among normal officers, that last remark would have been insubordination, or worse, a rebuke. But he let it pass. Normal military protocols seemed to have been jettisoned on this flight. "You said we were here to observe a child." He shook his head dubiously. "If this is a cover for real military intelligence work, then to tell the truth, there are better qualified officers for this mission. I graduated from UNSC OCS only 7 weeks ago. My orders had me rotated to the Magellan. Those orders were rescinded, ma'am." She turned and scrutinized him with icy blue eyes. "Go on, Lieutenant." He reached for his pipe, but then checked the motion. She would probably think it a silly habit. "If this is an intel op," he said, then I don't understand why I'm here at all." She leaned forward. "Then, Lieutenant, I shall be equally candid." Something deep inside Lieutenant Keyes told him he would regret hearing whatever Dr. Halsey had to say. He ignored the feeling. He wanted to know the truth. "Go ahead, Doctor." Her slight smile returned. "You are here because Vice Admiral Stanforth, head of Section 3 of UNSC Military Intelligence Division, refused to lend me the shuttle without at least one UNSC officer aboard, even though he knows damn well that I can pilot this bucket by myself. So I picked one UNSC officer. You." She tapped her lower lip thoughtfully and added, "You see, I've read your file, Lieutenant. All of it. I don't know." "You do know what I'm talking about." She rolled her eyes. "You don't lie well. Don't insult me by trying again." Lieutenant Keyes swallowed. "Then why me, especially if you've seen my record?" "I chose you precisely because of your record. Because of the incident in your second year at OCS. 14 ensigns killed. You were wounded and spent 2 months in rehabilitation. Plasma burns are particularly painful, I understand." He rubbed his hands together. "Yes. The lieutenant responsible was your CO on that training mission. You refused to testify against him despite overwhelming evidence and the testimony of his fellow officers and friends." "Yes." "They told the Board of Review the secret the lieutenant had entrusted to you all, that he was going to test his new theory to make slip space jumps more accurate. He was wrong, and you all paid for his eagerness and poor mathematics." Lieutenant Keyes studied his hands and had the feeling of falling inward. Dr. Halsey's voice sounded distant. "Yes. Despite continuing pressure, you never testified. They threatened to demote you, charge you with insubordination and refusing a direct order, even discharge you from the Navy. Your fellow officer candidates testified, though. The review board had all the evidence they needed to court-martial your CO. They put you on report and dropped all further disciplinary actions." He said nothing. His head hung low. "That is why you are here, Lieutenant. Because you have an ability that is exceedingly rare in the military. You can keep a secret." She drew in a long breath and added, "You may have to keep many secrets after this mission is over." He glanced up. There was a strange look in her eyes. Pity? That caught him off guard, and he looked away again. But he felt better than he had since OCS. Someone trusted him again. "I think," she said, "that you would rather be on the Magellan, fighting and dying on the frontier." "No, I—" He caught the lie as he said it, stopped, then corrected himself. "Yes, the UNSC needs every man and woman patrolling the outer colonies. Between the raiders and insurrections, it's a wonder it all hasn't fallen apart. Indeed, Lieutenant. Ever since we left Earth's gravity well, we've been fighting one another for every cubic centimeter of vacuum. From Mars to the Jovian moons to the Hydra system massacres and on to the 100 brushfire wars in the outer colonies. It has always been on the brink of falling apart. That's why we're here." "To observe one child," he said. "What difference could a child make?" One of her eyebrows arched. "This child could be more useful to the UNSC than a fleet of destroyers, 1,000 junior-grade lieutenants, or even me. In the end, the child may be the only thing that makes any difference." "Approaching Eridanus 2, Torin informed them. "Plot an atmospheric vector for the Luxor spaceport," Dr. Halsey ordered. "Lieutenant Keyes, make ready to land."
Wow. Okay. Damn. I sort of alluded to this last stream, but I thought this book was gonna be goofy as hell. It surely still is. Kinda. It will be a little fucking silly. But making notes of this, um, especially as I'm listening back, I don't remember so much of this shit. But I mean, it's probably been like 15 years since I actually like read this book. I was probably zoning out during good chunks of it. There's some shit in here. There's some real good lore shit in here. I was fucking around early on in the chapter, but towards the end, that's kind of crazy. So, Keyes and Halsey got a cryo sleep. A quick recap. I mean, you guys saw me type this shit as we were listening. They got out of cryo sleep aboard the Han, I think it was called. Very quickly, Keyes realized how much of a bad bitch Halsey is. Really good with AIs, and they were in the middle of a slipspace stream. I don't know, slipstream, fucking something. Getting from wherever point A was to point B, Eridanus, which I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, Eridanus has to be where John, Master Chief, was as a kid. I don't think it's important about the rebel insurrections around, but it gives you a little more context as to the state of, I guess, I was going to say the world, but it's more than a world in this fiction, of the worlds of the colonies, the states of all the colonies of humans. Keyes was confused as to why he got picked, but turns out he ain't no fucking snitch. He was on a mission where his lieutenant really fucked up, trying to like experiment with a different kind of slip space jump, and they didn't really go into detail on it. But Keyes was like, "I ain't saying shit. I ain't saying shit." So Halsey picked him because they're about to. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler. This is pretty well known. Halo lore is surely going to happen in the next chapter. Halsey picks Keyes to roll up with her to kidnap a fucking child and do like torture like experiments on him because Keyes ain't no fucking snitch. That's crazy. I always had, I don't know. It makes you It's kind of sick. It's also kind of sickening. Um, Keys was always badass in the first game, but then being like, oh, he's gonna be chill with the the kidnapping, cloning, and torturing of a child. Makes you go, was he that great? Anyway, 10:32. Shit, let's see. I am going to go ahead and roll into chapter 2, do a quick recap, and call it a night. So let us start on chapter 2 in countdown. Get ready to sync your playback with me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Chapter 2, 1130 hours, August 17th, 2517, military calendar. Eridanus star system, Eridanus 2, Elysium City. The orange sun cast a fiery glow on the playground of Elysium City Primary Education Facility number 119. Dr. Halsey and Lieutenant Keyes stood in the semi-shade of a canvas awning and watched children as they screamed and chased one another and climbed on steel lattices and skimmed grav balls across the repulsor courts. Lieutenant Keyes looked extremely uncomfortable in civilian clothes. He wore a loose gray suit, a white shirt, and no tie. Dr. Halsey found his sudden awkwardness charming. When he had complained the clothes were too loose and sloppy, she had almost laughed. He was pure military to the core. Even out of uniform, the lieutenant stood rigid, as if he were at perpetual attention. "It's nice here," she said. "This colony doesn't know how good they've got it. Rural lifestyle, no pollution, no crowding, climate-controlled weather." The lieutenant grunted an acknowledgement as he tried to smooth the wrinkles out of his silk jacket. "Relax," she said. "We're supposed to be parents inspecting the school for our little girl." She slipped her arm through his, and although she would have thought such a feat impossible, the lieutenant stood even straighter. She sighed and pulled away from him, opened her purse, and retrieved a palm-sized pad. She adjusted the brim of her wide straw hat to shade the pad from the noon glare. With a tap of her finger, she accessed and scanned the files she had assembled of their subject. Number 117 had all the genetic markers she had flagged in her original study. He was as close to a perfect subject for her purposes as science could determine. But Dr. Halsey knew it would take more than theoretical perfection to make this project work. People were more than the sum of their genes. They were environmental factors, mutations, learned ethics, and 100 other factors that could make this candidate unacceptable. The picture in the file showed a typical 6-year-old male. He had tousled brown hair and a sly grin that revealed a gap between his front teeth. A few freckles were speckled across his cheeks. Good. She could match the patterns to confirm his identity. "Our subject." As she angled the pad toward the lieutenant so he could see the boy, Dr. Halsey noticed that the picture was 4 months old. Didn't O&I realize how fast these children changed? Sloppy. She made a note to request updated pictures on a regular basis until Phase 3 started. "Is that him?" the lieutenant whispered. Dr. Halsey looked up. The lieutenant nodded to a grassy hill at the end of the playground. The crest of that hill was bare dirt, scuffed clean of all vegetation. A dozen boys pushed and shoved one another, grabbed, tackled, rolled down the slope, and then got back up, ran back, and started the process over. "King of the hill," Dr. Halsey remarked. One boy stood on the crest. He blocked, pushed, and strong-armed all the other children. Dr. Halsey pointed her datapad at him and recorded this incident for later study. She zoomed in on the subject to get a better look. This boy smiled and showed the same small gap between his front teeth. A split-second freeze frame, and she matched his freckles to the picture on file. "That's our boy." He was taller than the other children by a full head, and, if his performance in the game was any indicator, stronger as well. Another boy grabbed him from behind in a headlock. Number 117 peeled the boy off and, with a laugh, tossed him down the hillside like a toy. Dr. Halsey had expected a specimen of perfect physical proportions and stunning intellect. True, the subject was strong and fast, but he was also dirty and rude. Then again, unrealistic and subjective perceptions had to be confronted in these field studies. What did she really expect? He was a 6-year-old boy, full of life and unchecked emotion, and as predictable as the wind. 3 boys ganged up on him. 2 grabbed his legs, and 1 threw his arm around his chest. They all tumbled down the hill. Number 117 kicked and punched and bit his attackers until they let go and ran away to a safe distance. He rose and tore back up the hill, bumping another boy and shouting that he was king. He seems, the lieutenant started, very animated. Yes, Dr. Halsey said. We may be able to use this one. She glanced up and down the playground. The only adult was helping a girl get to her feet after falling down and scraping her elbow. She marched her towards the nurse's office. Stay here and watch me, Lieutenant, she said, and passed him the data pad. I'm going to have a closer look. The lieutenant started to say something, but Dr. Halsey walked away, then half jogged across the painted lines of hopscotch squares on the playground. A breeze caught her sundress, and she had to clutch the hem with one hand, grabbing the brim of her straw hat with the other. She slowed to a trot and halted 4 meters from the base of the hill. The children stopped and turned. You're in trouble, one boy said, and pushed number 117. He shoved the boy back and then looked Dr. Halsey squarely in the eyes. The other children looked away. Some wore embarrassed smirks, and a few slowly backed off. Her subject, however, stood there defiantly. He was either confident she wasn't going to punish him, or he simply wasn't afraid. He saw that he had a bruise on his cheek, the knees of his pants were torn, and his lip was cracked. Dr. Halsey took 3 steps closer. Several of the children took 3 involuntary steps backward. Can I speak with you, please? She asked, and continued to stare at her subject. He finally broke eye contact, shrugged, and then lumbered down the hill. The other children giggled and made tisking sounds. One tossed a pebble at him. Number 117 ignored them. Dr. Halsey led him to the edge of the nearby sandpit and stopped. What's your name? She asked. I'm John, he said. The boy held out his hand. Dr. Halsey didn't expect physical contact. The subject's father must have taught him the ritual, or the boy was highly imitative. She shook his hand and was surprised by the strength in his minuscule grip. It's very nice to meet you. She knelt, so she was at his level. I wanted to ask what you were doing. Winning, he said. Dr. Halsey smiled. He was unafraid of her, and she doubted that he'd have any trouble pushing her off the hill either. You like games, she said. So do I. He sighed. Yeah, but they made me play chess last week. That got boring. It's too easy to win. He took a quick breath. Or, can we play grab ball? They don't let me play grab ball anymore, but maybe if you tell them it's okay. I have a different game I want you to try, she told him. Look. She reached into her purse and brought out a metal disc. She turned it over and it gleamed in the sun. People used coins like this for currency a long time ago, when Earth was the only planet we lived on. His eyes fixed on the object. He reached for it. Dr. Halsey moved it away, continuing to flip it between her thumb and index finger. Each side is different, do you see? One has the face of a man with long hair. The other side has a bird called an eagle, and it's holding arrows, John said. Yes, good. His eyesight must be exceptional to see such detail so far away. We'll use this coin in our game. If you win, you can keep it. John tore his gaze from the coin and looked at her again, squinted, then said, Okay. I always win, though. That's why they won't let me play grab ball anymore. I'm sure you do. What's the game? It's very simple. I toss the coin like this. She flicked her wrist, snapped her thumb, and the coin arced, spinning into the air and landed in the sand. Next time, though, before it lands, I want you to tell me if it will fall with the face of the man showing or with the eagle holding the arrows. I got it. John tensed, bent his knees, and then his eyes seemed to lose their focus on her and the coin. Dr. Halsey picked up the quarter. Ready? John gave a slight nod. She tossed it, making sure there was plenty of spin. John's eyes watched it with that strange, distant gaze. He tracked it as it went up and then down toward the ground. His hand snapped out and snatched the quarter out of the air. He held up his closed hand. Eagle! He shouted. She tentatively reached for his hand and peeled open the tiny fist. The quarter lay in his palm, the eagle shining in the orange sun. Was it possible that he saw which side was up when he grabbed it? Or more improbably, could have picked which side he wanted? She hoped the lieutenant had recorded that. She should have told him to keep the datapad trained on her. John retracted his hand. I get to keep it, right? That's what you said. Yes, you can keep it, John. She smiled at him, then stopped. She shouldn't have used his name. That was a bad sign. She couldn't afford the luxury of liking her test subjects. She mentally stepped away from her feelings. She had to maintain a professional distance. She had to, because in a few months, number 117 might not be alive. Can we play again? Dr. Halsey stood and took a step back. That was the only one I had, I'm afraid. I have to leave now, she told him. Go back and play with your friends. Thanks. He ran back, shouting to the other boys. Look! Dr. Halsey strode to the lieutenant. The sun reflecting off the asphalt felt too hot, and she suddenly didn't want to be outside. She wanted to be back in the ship, where it was cool and dark. She wanted to get off this planet. She stepped under the canvas awning and said to the lieutenant, Tell me you recorded that. He handed her the datapad and looked puzzled. Yes. What was it all about? Dr. Halsey checked the recording and then sent a copy ahead to Torin on the Han for safekeeping. We screen these subjects for certain genetic markers, she said. Strength, agility, even predispositions for aggression and intellect. But we couldn't remote test for everything. We don't test for luck. Luck? Lieutenant Keyes asked. You believe in luck, Doctor? Of course not, she said with a dismissive wave of her hand. But we have 150 test subjects to consider, and facilities and funding for only half that number. It's simple mathematical elimination, Lieutenant. That child was one of the lucky ones. Either that, or he is extraordinarily fast. Either way, he's in. I don't understand, Lieutenant Keyes said, and he started fiddling with a pipe he carried in his pocket. I hope that continues, Lieutenant, Dr. Halsey replied quietly. For your sake, I hope you never understand what we're doing. She looked one last time at number 117, at John. He was having so much fun, running and laughing. For a moment she envied the boy's innocence. Hers was long dead. Life or death, lucky or not, she was condemning this boy to a great deal of pain and suffering. But it had to be done.
All right. That was an okay chapter. That was whatever. Not as much happened in it as I thought. It's probably gonna happen more in like the next couple of chapters, I would imagine. They scouted the school that John lives in, posing as parents. They found John. He, surprise, surprise, he was athletic as fuck. He was winning all the games and whatever the fuck kids do, he was doing good at. The little tiny note I made was John said something like, he said, I always win. The most recent game just so far, which was, I don't know, 20 years removed from this book. John gets his ass fucking beat in the beginning of Halo Infinite by Atriox. I think his name is Atriox. Atriox or Eshroom, I forget which one's which. So that's literally just, I don't know. I guess maybe later on in the game, John technically wins, but saying, quote, I always win, and then thinking of the opening to the game of Halo Infinite is just funny. It's a really funny scene to see Master Chief just get his shit rocked and thrown around. John called a coin toss, and this is a weird little point where it's like, yeah, Halsey doesn't believe in luck, but it feels like something that comes back is that John actually is literally just lucky. So it feels like they're putting out into this fictional cosmic universe that people are actually born with an element of luck. I don't know, whatever. It's weird. It's borderline. It's kind of a kid's fucking book, young adult book. So if they want to believe in the power of luck in this franchise, that's fine. Whatever. Do what you want. Okay, we made a little bit of progress. I'm gonna call it for tonight. Hopefully, the next couple chapters are a little more exciting. I really like chapter one. I will say, I did really like chapter one. Paying attention to it probably more than I ever have. There's a lot of little details and setup in that chapter alone that I absolutely do not remember. I was expecting more from chapter two. Whatever, we'll get it later on. I'm being impatient. There's 38 fucking chapters in this book, which is like isn't a lot, but you know, we got some space to cover. Shit will happen. All right, thank you for my one viewer on Twitch. I'll be back doing this 10 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night and probably most weeknights as I go through and get through every piece of Halo canon that exists. I'm pretty sure, yeah, after this book, after this audiobook, the next thing I'm going to do is Halo CE. And I don't know yet if I'm going to do the classic CE or the anniversary one, because it is just anniversary. It's just better graphics, whereas like the new one they're about to put out is an actual remake. There's different shit. So I might just play the one with better graphics, so I don't have to play the games twice. But if enough people are watching and be like, you gotta play the games twice, I'll play the games twice, whatever.